My Flicker Strike Monk can kill T4 Pinnacles instantly and clear maps extremely fast. Check it out.
Yeah, let's go!
What's going on, guys? Today, I've got my first iteration of my Flicker Strike Monk build. The build uses Flicker Strike combined with a new unique focus, Effigy of Cruelty. This allows us to apply critical weakness again, which lets us crit every single time we attack. This build takes inspiration from an Acolyte of Chalula Monk build that I saw on YouTube from a creator named Korahor. I'll link his Chalula Monk build if you want to check it out, but our builds do differ as we don't have to build into elemental damage penetration anymore thanks to Sunder My Enemies, which is going to open up a ton of skill points for us. This also allows us to use a rare amulet rather than the Beacon of Aziz amulet, which allows us to stack more level of melee skill and defenses. We also don't need Spirit on any of our gear thanks to Lead Me Through Grace. Now this is a much more complicated build than normal and it isn't budget, so please keep that in mind. Make sure to come check me out on twitch.tv/FGCorbin21 to see me playtest these builds live, and like, comment, and sub on the video. With that out of the way, I'll explain how we do the damage that we do now. So, we're using Flicker Strike as our main damaging skill, as its damage scaling in 0.2 is very good. We'll look to combine it with a new focus called Effigy of Cruelty, as it allows critical hits with spells to apply critical weakness. Critical weakness will allow all of our Flicker Strikes to be critical hits, which scales our damage very high. This alone is nice, but not enough. We'll implement empowered attacks and rage by using Infernal Cry, which when used will empower our next melee attack. Empowered attacks will gain 25% of damage as fire damage per 5 power of enemies in range. We boost this to 35% with quality on the skill gem. Bosses equal 20 power, so that's 140% extra fire damage added to attacks. Premediation will give us 15% more damage, and Raging Cry will give us 4 rage per 5 power of enemies in range for a total of 16 rage per use. We'll use Enraged Warcry to consume 10 rage and give us 30% more damage, which leaves us with 6 leftover rage. Second Wind will allow us to double Warcry, giving us a total of 22, the 6 left over, plus 16 more from that extra use, which is a total of 22% more damage. The extra damage from the Warcry and the guaranteed crit with critical weakness makes this extremely potent. Now, we need power charges for boss fights, so we're going to find a way to automate it whenever we're mapping and manual embossing. So we have a Rattling Scepter in our offhand, which grants us Skeletal Warriors. We can then use Sacrifice combined with Profane Ritual to generate power charges for boss fights. Now, this is automated when mapping thanks to Cast On Freeze and another instance of Profane Ritual. We run another Cast On Freeze with Voltaic Mark to create lightning explosions to increase our clear speed as well. So we're currently running around with 68% evasion, 5k energy shield, so we're tanky, we're fast, and we can kill Pinnacles, making this an S tier build. With the explanation out of the way, let's get into the skill gems and support gems. So here on the Flicker Monk, and I'm going to go ahead and break down our mapping set of skill gems and support gems, so jump to the bossing section if you want that. I'll have it in the timestamps down there. So our main skill is going to be Flicker Strike whenever we have power charges, and what we're going to be doing is we'll generate our power charges with Storm Wave and our Cast On Freeze, but Flicker Strike is going to be used to teleport around the map and clear our maps as fast as possible. Now, with Flicker, we're going to run close combat because it does teleport you right into the face of the enemy, so this is going to give you a 25% damage boost all the time. We're going to run Overextend for 30% more crit damage bonus on this skill. We're going to run Concentrated Effect for more area damage, as it is a really nice damage increase. We're going to run Ambush, so that way it takes our flat 40.37% and it will double that on full life targets, so that'll be nearly 81% on full life targets. That way whenever we're teleporting to a new target, it should be full life, and we hopefully should crit nearly every time, so that way we can kill it and move on to the next one. And if you have the 5th link, I would recommend that you throw on Hit and Run to increase that skill speed of our Flicker Strike to allow you to dash around a whole lot faster. It'll make it much more satisfying if you have the 5 link. So whenever we don't have power charges, we'll use Storm Wave to generate them, and you can use Ice Strike if you want to, but I personally like Storm Wave so that way we can keep our distance. Now on Storm Wave, I'm running Martial Tempo to increase the attack speed of it. I'm running Upheaval to allow us to create those additional fissures for some extra area of effect. And I'm running Inspiration to reduce the mana cost of it, because due to our cast on crit proccing Voltaic Mark and Profane Ritual and using Stormwave, the mana cost can get kind of high whenever we're mapping, so I recommend that you run Inspiration in here. Now, you absolutely need to have Cold Infusion in the skill, as we do want to be freezing targets with cast on freeze and Cold Infusion, which is going to take our damage down a bit, but it's going to increase our cold damage even more to ensure that we're freezing enough to generate some power charges. So, Charge Staff is going to be our persistent buff that we're using whenever we're using Flicker and Stormwave, and it's going to act as a nice kind of double-edged sword, as it's going to allow us to blind and cold targets. So we'll run Persistence to increase the duration of Charge Staff by 40%. We'll run Conduction, as we do want to shock pretty often, and this will help us shock more often. We're going to run Culling Strike, as it will allow any attacks that are amped by Charge Staff to cull rare or unique enemies, which will kill them earlier. And we'll run Blind, so that way any targets hit by our Charge Staff will have their accuracy reduced, and we already have pretty high evasion, so this should help us not get hit all that often to keep us alive. Now, I have Eye of Winter on here, as whenever you are doing a map boss, it's nice to have this on you to guarantee that you're critting, to help you kill them every single time a whole lot faster. Now, you do want to run this as a level 13, and I don't recommend that you quality it, as you do want the projectile speed to be slower, so that way you're hitting the boss a bit more and it isn't just going off the screen away from them. Run the lower level ones, so that you're also not consuming all of your mana on a single use. We're going to run Pinpoint and Critical, as we're just looking for this to crit. We don't care about the damage. So run Pinpoint Critical to increase its crit hit chance, Inevitable Crit to allow it to crit more often, and we'll run Unleash to allow it to sling out multiple projectiles, a total of 2 to 3, typically 3 whenever you're just spamming it like this. So that way you can crit more often, you have more projectiles. Now, we have Profane Ritual, a manual one, and we have our Profane Ritual in this Cast on Freeze, an automatic one. Now, whenever I'm mapping, I don't tend to need this, but if I absolutely don't have any power charges, I can use this skill on my middle mouse on a corpse to consume it and grant myself power charges. Now, I'm running Corpse Conservation to give me a chance to not consume that corpse, to allow me to spam that button on a couple times to get me all the power charges I need. I'm running Mobility because as I'm running on the map using it, I don't want it slowing me down all that much. I'm running Arcane Tempo to increase that cast speed of it, and then we're going to run Fast Forward to decrease the time that it takes to complete that ritual. This will make that ritual happen much faster. You can see that the duration is 1.4 seconds with it on, it's 2 seconds with it off. So you want that ritual to be faster, so that way you're getting power charges faster. Now, our automatic Cast on Freeze, which is proccing most of the time, will happen whenever we freeze some targets. It will proc Profane Ritual on a corpse and auto-consume it for us for power charges. This is how we automate us doing flickering around the map. So we'll run Cast on Freeze, make sure it's qualityed, and we're going to run Profane Ritual and also make sure that it's qualityed. We're going to run Profusion, as it has a 50% chance to grant us additional charge every single time it gives us a charge. This is nice for making sure that we get them as high as possible, as often as possible. We're going to run Overabundance, and it's not for the +1 the limit, it's for the less skill effect duration, as this takes our total ritual time from 1 second to 2 seconds, you can see right here. So you want to make sure that you have this. If you have the last slots, I like running Energy Retention and Impetus. I recommend that if you don't have that 6th link, to actually just run Impetus in this slot right here. And then if you have the 5th link, you can run Energy Retention. This will make this proc more often to give us power charges more often. On our second Cast on Freeze, we're going to be running Voltaic Mark, and this is going to mark a target, and whenever it dies, it will explode into a giant lightning explosion. This is awesome for whenever we're mapping. Now, I'm running Innervate in it, so that way whenever it kills a shocked enemy, which it will do very often, it will proc Innervate and give us 35% extra damage. We're going to rock Magnified Effect to make this explosion larger, and we're going to rock Reach to also increase this explosion area of effect. Now, you don't have to worry about accuracy, as we are guaranteed to crit within those areas that we're at, so we're not going to be going past 5 meters on that explosion radius, so you don't have to worry about that going any further than that. So we're also rocking Herald of Thunder because we will be killing shock targets. This will amp our attacks and allow us to clear a little bit faster. Now, I am running Glaciation in it and Ice Bite because we want this to freeze, and it will be able to freeze due to the added cold damage to attacks. This will proc Ice Bite pretty often, allowing us to get an extra 35% damage. Glaciation will increase the freeze buildup, that way it'll freeze more often. We'll run Primal here, so that way it does extra elemental damage, and that does include cold damage, and we'll run Long Shot, as this does tend to chain out a bit far, and this will increase that damage that it does. Now, lastly, for defense, I'm running Wind Dancer, and in Wind Dancer, I'm running Pin and Maim, and these two right here, whenever the Gale Force goes off, whenever we get hit, it will pin them and maim them, giving us time to escape. I'm running Clarity since I have the extra spirit for a bit more mana regen, and I'm running Warm Blooded because I also have a little bit extra spirit left over, and this will decrease the amount of time that we are frozen. Now, I do run a stun and a freeze charm, but if our freeze charm happens to be out and we get frozen, this will make that freeze go away and at twice the speed because it's 50% less of the duration. So a 2-second freeze is now a 1-second freeze. So this is really nice to have there if you have the extra spirit. But if you don't have the extra spirit, then you can take those two out and it doesn't require a whole lot there. So yeah, that is it for the mapping set of skill gems. I'll go ahead and break down the bossing set of skill gems. So now for the bossing setup. And the bossing setup is particularly for Pinnacle bosses, as you don't need this for map bosses as they die fast enough anyways. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a scepter in our offhand, and that scepter is going to be used to summon skeletal minions, which we will use our manual profane ritual on combined with sacrifice. This is so that we can, whenever we walk into like a Pinnacle boss fight, we can ensure that we have power charges for Flicker Strike. So on our skeletal warriors, which are granted by a rattling scepter, we are going to run Physical Mastery to increase their level by 1. We're going to run Death March. That way, whenever one dies, it will heal other ones for 25%. And I'm running Last Gasp. That way, they die 4 seconds after they're supposed to die. If you have the extra slot for Strength, you can run the Meat Shield one here to increase their max life further to ensure that they're not getting killed by the boss as often. Now, I am still running Flicker Strike like normal, except all I've done is I've taken out Hit and Run and I've slotted in Primal Armament from our Herald of Thunder. So that's just there for the extra added damage. Stormwave stays the same, Charge Staff stays the same, Eye of Winter stays the same. This is where we start to make some changes. So on Profane Ritual, we have now put on Profusion off of our automated one, so that way we can get some charges more often, extra charges. And we're going to keep Arcane Tempo and Fast Forward, and we're on Overabundance from the automatic one as well, because this will make that ritual duration even shorter to speed this process up of getting some extra power charges. This will make the ritual happen super fast and give us our power charges ASAP. Now, Infernal Cry, this is what we're using to get us a ton of extra damage. You have to have this. Get it at whatever level you can meet the requirement at. My one that I could get was a level 6. The level's not all that crazy important. It will just make the Warcry speed faster. Make sure you quality it as well to get that 10% extra damage. So that way it's a ton of extra. And we're going to run Premediation in it to allow us to get 15% more damage on empowered skills, which our next melee attack will be empowered thanks to this. We're going to run Raging Cry, so that way whenever we do our War Cry, we'll get 4 rage per 5 power of enemies in range. Bosses count as 20 power, so that way we're going to be getting 16 rage in our first War Cry. When we pop that first War Cry and we get 16 rage, we're able to do a second War Cry thanks to Second Wind, which will consume 10 of that first 16 to allow us to do 30% more damage. Now, once that second War Cry is up, we should have a total leftover of 22 rage, and we should be empowered for our extra damage. We should have Premediation boosting our damage, and we should have this Enraged War Cry boosting our damage. It is a ton of extra damage, and that is how we managed to do all that big hit on the Zesh kill that you see, and how we one-shot these map bosses like that. So that is it for the War Cry. Cast on Freeze, this one is staying the exact same. This is the Voltaic Mark 1. It does not really matter. I don't mess with it whenever I'm doing my Pinnacle bosses. And then Sacrifice, this is the other skill gem that we have to have. It will allow us to use our reviving minions in place of corpses, because there won't be corpses in our Pinnacle boss fights, so we can revive using these guys instead, or get our corpses, to get our power charges instead that way. So I just run Minion Mastery to increase the level of it, so that way the minions revive a little bit faster. They come back a little bit faster. And we're still keeping Wind Dancer in the exact same way as before. But that really is all that is in the second weapon set. I'll go over this in the gear. We have the Focus, and we have the Scepter that has increased Spirit. So yeah, that is it for the bossing setup. You can watch the rotation for what I do on that part of the video, but I'll go ahead and get into the gear now. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and go over the gear. Now, What you can do immediately if you want to in a boss fight, there is a pair of unique boots that will increase your crit damage bonus even further. You can run these if you are struggling to get the one flicker on Zesht, as that is pretty important. But these boots right here, which Corey Horror uses in his video, I don't like to use them due to them having way less movement speed. That bothers me. But you can throw these on specifically whenever you're doing Pinnacle bosses if you absolutely want to for some extra damage. But I don't need them. I haven't needed them, so I don't tend to use them, but they're there if you need them. So what's different about this iteration of our build versus the old ones is typically you have to get a specific quarterstaff with certain damages and everything like that. But Flicker is a little bit different, as Flicker Strike doesn't convert any portion like your other attacks do. They don't convert. They just do the damage of your quarterstaff and have some extra bonuses. They just take that and give it a % increase. So your quarterstaff, the main things that you're going to want to focus on is going to be crit damage bonus and level of melee skill. So of course you're going to want high damage of any type. It can be physical, it can be elemental. That does not matter. It can be any type of quarterstaff. Just make sure that you're getting as high plus level of melee skill and as high crit damage bonus as possible. Now, if you can get crit damage bonus, level of melee skill, and crit hit chance, that would be the best outcome. But I do recommend that you try to go for these things on your quarterstaff. Now, I did go with one that was corrupted for 3 sockets, so I could do 3 soul cores of Tikaba, as these give us 12% the crit damage bonus per. That was the best thing overall DPS wise to throw in the quarterstaff. But if not, just run increased physical damage with attacks. But that is the quarterstaff. On the other weapon set, I'll go ahead and go over these right off the rip. We're rocking a Rattling Scepter, and we're rocking the Unique Focus. Now, on the Rattling Scepter, you want as high Spirit as possible, and you want increased minion max life, and if you can, level of minion skill to allow you to have less reservation cost and to keep them a little bit tankier. That's really all that you're looking for. Just make sure that it's a Rattling Scepter, and you'll be good to go. As for the focus, this focus is needed to allow our Eye of Winter to apply critical weakness. So critical hits with spells apply 4 stacks of critical weakness. Try to get you a good version that can do maybe 5 stacks or whatever, but it's just a nice thing to have in your offhand to get you that critical weakness to guarantee your crit hit chances. So that's all you're really looking for on that. So on the gloves, what you're going to want to go for absolutely is level of melee skill. +2 level of melee skill is going to be the best bet. And then try to get you some added damages. I've gone for plus dex because you do need to have a pretty high amount of dex and int, about 200 apiece. And then I got some resistances and mana filled out on there. On the helmet, I have increased crit hit chance. Make sure that you get that every single time. And I've gone with mana because you do want a pretty high mana pool for this because we have such high level of melee skills. Otherwise, I just recommend that you get resistances filled out, and if you can get some stats or some rarity. On the body armor, I have a pure ES, and we are going for, of course, really, really high energy shield. The more the better. The other stats on it are pretty bad, but the cold resistance is nice. Get your resistance filled out. I recommend that you try to get attributes if you can. Try to get dex or int. I think this type would give you int, and that would be your best bet there. For the boots, like I said, you can run the unique ones if you want whenever you're doing Pinnacle bosses, but I don't like to do them for mapping because they are 15% move speed boots, which are kind of slow. You're going to want a high movement speed pair of boots with high evasion. That's what I'm rocking for these, is high evasion. I have mana, I have dex. You can do mana dex, mana int, either one's fine, and then have my resistances filled out. That's what you're going to be looking for on there. I'm rocking an Ingenuity belt. This is giving us increased bonuses from our rings, which help us fill out our resistances a bit easier, which is really nice, as well as increase the amount of attributes that we have. And I also have a second set of rings that I keep on hand just for whenever I am doing mapping to ensure that I have high rarity. I also have a helmet for that as well. So I swap these on since I already have good enough damage to get me about, it's like 115% rarity whenever I'm mapping and stuff like that. For the rings, I'm rocking rings with any added damage to attacks, and % lightning is going to be your best bet, or just % of whatever your best damage type is. Otherwise, go for mana, dex int, and your resistances. Other rings, same way. I have all elemental resistances. I have some added damage. I have all attributes, dex, mana per enemy killed. That's fine as well. Try to get more mana, things like that on your rings. On my amulet, we're allocating Storm Charge. That is the best option. Make sure you are allocating Storm Charge every single time. Try to go for one that has increased evasion and increased maximum energy shield, as this will be a massive bump defensively. I got plus to max mana, and I have plus 3 level of melee skill. Plus 3 level of melee skill is going to be huge for getting us some bonus damage. You can see if I was to take off this amulet, that would lose about 30k damage. So make sure that you're getting that plus level of melee skill and that you're getting increased evasion, maximum energy shield. I have crit damage bonus and lightning resist on here because I need to make sure that I'm filling out my resistances. Otherwise, if you have enough, you can go crit damage bonus, crit hit chance. You can go more attributes. Anything like that along those lines will be fine. As for the flask, I'm just running a fat heal life flask, as we do have eternal youth to heal our energy shield, and then I have a mana flask that just has a high amount of charges and a fast recovery. You could do whatever flask, a higher amount of mana recovery would be fine. You could do an applied instantly, anything that like that would be fine. As for the charms, I am using a stun charm and a freeze charm. I do recommend that you run a stun charm and a freeze charm, as these are the only 2 weaknesses that this build could quote unquote have. They have made stunning and freezing a bit better due to some new nodes across some CI that I will show off in the passive tree showcase, but I do recommend that you run at least these 2 charms. There is a unique charm that you can run, and it is right here, to where whenever you take cold damage from a hit, you will be given a power charge. If you have the 3rd slot for your ingenuity, I recommend that you get that, so that way you can generate some extra power charges on use. But that is going to be it for the gear. The gear doesn't really change whenever I'm mapping or bossing. I do swap to rarity rings and a rarity helmet. That way, whenever I'm doing some mapping, I can have some better drops. Otherwise, all that's out of the way, and I'll go ahead and break down the passive skill tree. So here we are on the passive skill tree. The Ascendancy, of course, we're an Invoker, and you're going to make sure that we're going for Lead Me Through Grace. It's going to give us +1 Spirit per 8 Energy Shield and 20 Evasion on our body armor. So the higher Evasion or Energy Shield on our body armor, the more total Spirit that we have. That is how we get this amount of Spirit. We're going to want to go for Sunder My Enemies, as our crit hits will ignore enemy monster elemental resistances. This will allow us to pretty much not have to worry about penetrating enemy elemental resistances. This is exactly what we want. This is a huge damage increase. Make sure you're picking this. I've elected to go with I Am the Blizzard and I Am the Thunder, as 10% extra cold damage will ensure that we are doing enough cold damage to freeze things for our cast on freeze. And the I Am the Thunder is just a nice extra added lightning damage, and the increased magnitude of shock will let us do some extra damage as well. You absolutely could run Unbound Avatar if you wanted to, but I already have enough buttons to press anyways whenever we're in Pinnacle boss fights now, that I haven't bothered with it, as it's only really a Pinnacle boss use anyways. So that is what I'm running for the Ascendancy tree. Now, for the skill tree, we are running weapon sets, but the weapon set thing is really, really simple. All that we're going to do on weapon set 2, which is our scepter, our minion stuff, is you want to get all these nodes for minions reviving faster, and the minion life stuff like that. So that way your minions aren't dying as often in boss fights, and they revive quicker, so that way you can get your charges back if you absolutely need to in the boss fight. We'll also grab this right here for the chance to not destroy corpses. Whenever we consume corpses, this will allow us to proc our profane ritual more often. All right, otherwise, all that we're really looking to do on our skill tree is we're going to be looking to get a ton of crit damage bonus and things like that. So I've gone up this way. I've made sure to grab these crit nodes, and we're going to grab this right here. I come all the way down here to grab this right here. You could grab it from right there or there. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But we want this for the dex and movement speed. We want this for the dex and this is just some nice EVES. We'll come up this way, get all 3 nodes for this crit stuff. And we're going to grab these 2 nodes for skill speed right here. We're going to come out this way and get all these crit nodes right here. Put this crit node right here on weapon set 1. We'll come up this way and we'll grab the charge stuff right here to ensure that we have +1 the maximum charges and increase crit damage bonus if we've gained a power charge recently. So this will make our charges last faster and give us some more crit damage bonus if we've gained a power charge recently. We'll come down this way and we're going to pick up Essence of the Mountain to get an extra 5% extra cold damage and some more freeze build up to help us proc our cast on freeze more often. We'll come right here and we'll get these nodes right here to give us another power charge and a 5% chance. If we gain a power charge, we would instead gain the maximum number. This is really nice. This will proc often when mapping, and this will give us more energy shield whenever we are mapping. We'll throw all 3 of these nodes right here on weapon set 1, and they're just attack damage nodes and chance to blind on attacks. We come out this way because we want Subterfuge Mask, as it's going to give us +2 evasion rating per 1 maximum energy shield on our helmet. So since we have a 390 energy shield helmet, this leaves us with a grand total of 780 evasion on the helmet as well, which is pretty much better than any evasion helmet you're going to buy anyways. So super nice to grab up for defenses. We'll come out this way. We'll throw these nodes right here on weapon set 2, and this is for the extra cast speed whenever we are using our profane ritual in boss fights. We'll grab the nodes for attack speed, strength, to ensure that we have enough support gem slots for strength. We'll grab this nodes because we're always going to be on full life, so that's a all the time 30% attack damage buff. For the first gem, I'm running a From Nothing Diamond, which is going to allow passes and radius of Zealot's Oath to be allocated without being connected. This will just put a ring, a big circle around Zealot's Oath over here, and you can click these 3 nodes for attack damage. So that's a nice 75% increased attack damage right there, so make sure you're getting that. We'll come out this way, and we're going to grab these crit nodes right here. Make sure you're getting them because they also give you attributes. And we'll throw these 3 nodes right here on weapon set 1, and make sure you pick this top node and not this bottom one. We'll come out this way. We're going to grab Eternal Youth as it's going to allow us to heal our energy shield with our life flask. It's super nice for keeping us alive. We'll come down this way, and we're going to grab these power charge nodes as they're going to give us 20% crit damage bonus if we consumed a power charge recently, so aka when we flicker our charge staff, and then 2 more power charges, which is super nice. We'll come out here and throw all of these nodes right here on weapon set 1, all of these crit ones. We'll throw every single node out here on weapon set 1 as well. We get this one for the increased attack speed, and we don't have to worry about knocking back enemies because we're not using a bell anymore. And we'll come down here to get the crazy boost to dex crit damage bonus, and we mainly come all the way down here for this node right here, which is going to give us quarterstaff skills that consume power charges, count as consuming an additional 1. So we have, I think, 7 or 8 max power charges. It'll act as if we're consuming 8 or 9 power charges every single time we use a skill if we're using them at max. So if we use it with 1 power charge, it'll count as using 2 power charges. It's just super nice to have. And all these nodes right here, because they're crit hit chance at higher rates and crit damage bonus at higher rates. Now, if you don't have the money for this, this is fine, but I had the money for it, so I bought it. We're doing this because notable passives in radius grant 2% of damage as extra cold, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nodes of notables, so that's 10% damage as extra cold damage to help us proc cast on freeze more often. And then we also have small passive in radius are granting 4% of fire resistance. This is giving us a ton of fire resistance to ensure that our resistances are being capped out. All of these are giving us +4 to fire resistance, so super awesome to have. We'll then come up this way, and we're going to grab these crit nodes right here on weapon set 1. We'll also grab, of course, Chaos Inoculation. This will set our life to 1, but make us immune to chaos damage. That way we don't have to worry about speccing into it. And we'll grab these newly added nodes right across from Chaos Inoculation that will help us with our issue of being stunned and frozen with this 1 life situation. So we're going to get additional element and stun threshold based off of our maximum energy shield. Same thing, stun threshold and stun recovery based off of our maximum energy shield. This will help us not get stunned all that often. And then same thing here, element threshold and duration of elements on us based off our energy shield. This will help us not get frozen, shocked, ignited, etc. to help us out there. For this one, I'm just running a 2% mana on kill, elemental damage, meta skills gain increased energy, and it just happened to have damage penetrates cold resistance on it. So super nice gem. You can go increase maximum energy shield, increased evasion. I just recommend that you have at least 2% mana on kill gem at all times. We'll come out this way and get this node, particularly for the +25 to int and the +8 to int. But this is a really nice boost to our maximum energy shield right here. It's a total of a 60% boost and then a 15% boost. So you want that for the defenses for the small value that it is. So that is the passive skill tree. If you want to see the colors of these a little bit more clear, go check out the Path of Building or the max roll link. You can see the colors a little bit more clearly. So now I'll go ahead and get into a mapping demonstration, a bossing demonstration, and a pinnacle bossing demonstration for you guys. So here we are. I have a tier 15 waystone with some stuff on it, and it's in a pretty juiced 3-tower area with a whole bunch of stuff on it. So I'll go ahead and get in there and show you how we map. So what you're going to be looking to do is generating your power charges by either proccing Profane Ritual or with your cast on freeze or using your manual Profane Ritual. So you'll see that I generate all my power charges. I'll pop my charge staff. And I'm going to go ahead and generate some more power charges. You can, like I said, use the manual one alongside the automatic to guarantee you're getting as many power charges as possible. And once you have them and you're ready to go, finding a nice big group of enemies, and you're just going to pop your Flicker Strike and watch yourself go. Now, you don't really have any control over the direction that it takes you, but you can see that it's going to automatically generate some more power charges back, so that way we can pop Flicker Strike as much as possible, and it'll teleport you all over the place, making your mapping speed super fast. So really nice for whenever you're mapping to help you clear them out super fast. Just make sure you go back for your loot, as it does kind of throw you all over the place, and you can miss out on some things that you just kind of forgot about. So yeah, make sure that you're going back behind, picking up your stuff, generating your power charges. You can use the manual alongside the automatic. That way you're keeping your power charges up as much as possible, but it makes the map speed really fast, and you don't really have to worry about, you know, a whole lot of stuff. You kind of just teleport around and kill everything with your Voltaic Mark explosions, your Herald of Thunder, your Flicker, but that is really it for the mapping. And I'll go ahead and get into a bossing demonstration and a Pinnacle bossing demonstration. So here we are on my media player, and I have this so that way I can pause it and show you exactly what I'm doing at every stage, so that way you understand how we're doing what we're doing. So what I've done is, now that I've cleared the map, I have gone back to my hideout and swapped out my cast on crit profane ritual for my war cry. You don't have to do this. You can kill the bosses normally with Flicker. It may not absolutely one-shot them, but you can very easily clean them up with Eye of Winter and Storm Wave with no problem. But I like to do this for the one shot. What I've done is before I've started the boss fight, I have summoned my minions with my other weapon set just by swapping to it, and I sacrifice them with my manual profane ritual. This will generate me my power charges. I'll then pop my charge staff, which will then put my charge staff on my back for me, ready to go for some extra damage. I'll then continue sacrificing minions until I have enough for my flicker strike, and I'll walk forward and I'll start the boss. Now that I've started the boss, I'm going to throw my Eye of Winter at the boss to proc my critical weakness stack, so that way I can have increased crit hit chance. Now that it is applied to the boss, you can see that we have 10 stacks whenever it says 10%. We are good to war cry. I will pop my first war cry, which you can see right here, which is that big red ring that happened around me. That's going to give me 16 rage. What's going to happen is I'm going to pop my second war cry, which will consume 10 of that rage to allow me to do 30 or 35% more damage. And now I am good to go to hit my flicker strike. I like to step away from the boss, and I will pop my flicker strike and instantly kill the boss like that. So that is exactly how I go about doing my map bosses. You absolutely don't have to do this in this big complicated manner. You can just simply walk in with without swapping to your war cry, and go for like an Eye of Winter max charge flicker strike, and it may take like a time or two, or maybe you can mix in some storm waves, but I like to do this for the one shot, so that way you know. So now that that's out of the way, I'll go ahead and show you how I do a Pinnacle boss. All right, so here we are on T4 Zesht, and what I've done here is I accidentally forgot to hit record immediately, so I'm like part way through me doing something. So what I've done is, before I started the fight with Zesht, I made sure to have my charge staff ready. I already had it popped in on my back, and I got myself some charges as he's speaking, getting ready to stand up. So that way whenever the fight starts, I already have my max charges ready to go. So now that I have all my charges and I have my charge staff buff popped, I'm ready to go, right? I'm going to throw my Eye of Winter and apply my critical weak stacks. It puts them at 10. That way at 10, that's max stacks. And now I'm going to hit my war cries. I'm going to war cry right here once, and I'm going to war cry again to consume that first 10 of 16 that I had, to give me that extra damage, and then give me a little bit boosted extra rage right there. So now that I've double war cried, I'm good to go. I can take a step back, and I'm going to flicker strike, and it will kill Zesht like it ain't nothing. So yeah, 31 million HP going like that, like it isn't anything. So that is the Pinnacle boss rotation. So that is it for the Flicker Monk. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, or come by my Twitch at twitch.tv/FGCorbin21. I'll happily help you guys figure out whatever you got going on. I can show off the rotations, and you can watch me playtest these builds live. If you like the video, please be sure to leave me a like, a comment, or sub. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know what build I should do next. I'm not sure what I'm moving on to next, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Y'all take care.